Hello and welcome back to Archetype Builds. And welcome back to our class ranking series, where we rank every subclass for how they meet the 7 roles of the party. Those roles being the Frontline, the Beatdown, the Investigator, the Infiltrator, the Negotiator, the Utility, and Support. We're going to see how all the different subclasses rank, using their baselines as kind of like a guideline to start us off. Today we're talking about the Monk. Probably not many people's favorite class in 5e, and by the looks of things, probably not in 1D&D either. And we're going to talk about how the Monk does, so let's get to it. So the first Monk subclass we got to talk about came out most recently with Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. When I first came up with this series, Fizban's wasn't out yet, so I actually had to go back and rank this for this video. And we're going to get a couple things here at 3rd level. The first one being Draconic Disciple. So this is going to allow us to primarily re-roll intimidation checks with for our charisma stat, which is actually a boost to negotiation, right? Now, where your monk, which needs wisdom, dexterity, and constitution, is going to grab a little bit of charisma to be the negotiator, is your business. But this actually does help being a negotiator. You can also change the damage type of your strikes to one of these elemental types that is associated with dragons, and that's kind of okay for doing damage, right? Bypasses resistance. And then, of course, you get Draconic, the language. Breath of the Dragon is probably the signature feature for this particular subclass. This is going to allow you to, when you take the attack action, you can replace an attack with a Draconic Exhalation. You do a cone or a line, so you're going to get a bunch of targets with this. And then they make a dexterity saving throw against your key DC, which is nice. And they take damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So your martial arts die starts at D4, then a D6. Let's say by the time you're really using this for most combats, it's either a D6 or a D8. So 2D6 or 2D8. You have proficiency bonus uses per long rest of this ability. So proficiency bonus is going to be a 3 and a 4, D6, D8. So let's say at the higher end, 4 times 2D8 times the number of enemies you're able to get in your cone. This is an improvement because the monk is now able to do multiple things from a damage perspective, right? It's not single target, it's multi-target, and the monk didn't have good multi-target damage before, so this is kind of nice. Enough to bump it, I think, on damage, but it is a low amount of damage that you're dealing, and it's not very frequent. This is probably once per combat, or maybe twice per combat, but you're not going to notice this in comparison to like the spellcasters in the party. At 6th level, you're going to get Wings Unfurled, which allows you to have a flying speed while you use your Step of the Wind. Great utility. I really like this. You have a number of uses equal to your proficiency bonus. I don't know why these are all proficiency bonus things and not like wisdom or just like spending an extra key point or something. But you can fly a couple times a day. We just make this whenever you use Step of the Wind. Like, whatever. Flying is good. Flying is a very powerful utility ability. Getting it at level 6 is not bad, honestly. Like, there are flying races, but those are often banned. So when you look at, like, who's getting flying, 5th level, the spellcasters get access to the spell. 6th level's right after that. So this is pretty good. Aspect of the Worm is our 11th level ability. We get the ability to do, like, a Frightful Presence. We can make everybody afraid of us. They have to make a Wisdom saving throw against our key save DC. That's good. There are other monk subclasses that does fear better, but this is nice. You know what I mean? It's a good crowd control kind of ability. And you get the resistance ability as well. And resistance is going to choose a damage type, and you and your allies within the aura, and that aura is 10 feet, so it's like a paladin's protection aura. And you and any allies within the aura have resistance to that damage type, which is situationally very powerful support, especially if you are sure you're going up against a certain type of enemy. Being able to like activate this and give you everyone cold resistance or something, or fire resistance against enemies of that type is going to pull some huge numbers. Obviously, a support character requires a lot more features than that, but it's nice. It's good. It is at 11th levels, but it's nice. Ascendant aspect is going to upgrade some of the features you've already gotten from this class. Augment Breath is going to allow you to double the size of the cone. It goes to a 60-foot cone, or your line becomes a 90-foot line. I don't know when you're going to need a 90-foot line, but whatever. They take damage equal to 4 rolls of your martial arts die, which at this level is actually pretty significant, right? You're doing some good damage here. Up against enemies that are appropriate for a level 17 party is still probably peanuts. But if you have the opportunity to be in a combat against many smaller targets, this will pull through and do some decent damage. We're also going to get Blind Sight, which is a very useful utility ability, and then we're going to upgrade our Aspect of the Worm to deal 3d10 damage to people within that aura when you activate it, essentially. So that one-time like burst. 3d10 is okay, but again, at 17th level, it's peanuts. So I think this class is just undertuned, in my opinion. The numbers are just small. You want to love the bonuses to utility that come from being able to do a Frightful Presence or that come from the flying. And yet those are limited as well, right? Like there's a lot of limitations that box this class in. It just feels hard to really like step up in power level, but there's some minor boosts to damage, utility, and negotiation. All right, Way of the Astral Self is one of my favorite monk subclasses. At 3rd level, you're going to get Arms of the Astral Self that allow you to spend a key point as a bonus action and summon the arms of your astral form. This gives you a bunch of benefits, so I'm going to run through them here. Firstly, when you activate them, people within 10 feet of you must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take force damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. For 10 minutes then, afterwards, these spectral arms hover near you, and you can use your wisdom modifier in place of your strength modifier when making strength checks and strength saving throws. You can use the spectral arms to make unarmed strikes, and when you do use those unarmed strikes, it's got to reach 5 feet greater than normal, and they use your wisdom modifier in place of your strength or dexterity for the damage rolls. The damage type is force. So this is the single ability score dependent monk, and it's really hard to overstate how valuable that is. Being able to put your combat bonus, all of your spell save DCs, all this kind of stuff, like collapse it in just to wisdom, and give yourself the freedom to, once you've boosted wisdom to its max, to actually like take feats and take other things to customize your character, because you're not so worried about buffing up dexterity and wisdom. That's really nice. It's also, just as a part of the activation, you get an instant effect, right? This damage to people equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die, so you're pumping out damage. And for what it's worth, this reach, right, this extra 5 feet of reach is sometimes tactically useful, especially if you are trying to either strike enemies from 10 feet away, where you don't want them to be able to reach you, or maybe you're the tank and you're trying to lock down a larger area of control. I have seen players combo this class with the Sentinel feat, because if your enemy tries to run away and you stop them at the edge of your reach, right, stopping them 10 feet away means they are rooted away from you, which is very helpful, right? Goes without saying, but the theme of this class being force damage, it's one of the least resisted damage types. This is going to very consistently overcome resistances and immunities. Obviously, Monk, being so focused on like flurry of blows and stunning strike, like doing unarmed strikes, was always going to be tripped up by monsters that had resistance or even immunity to bludgeoning damage. So being able to switch that to force damage is actually really, really helpful, and more so as you go along. So great potential here for both frontlining and for damage dealing. The Visage of the Astral Self is going to allow you to spend an extra key point when you activate your arms in order to gain another set of benefits. You're going to get Astral Sight, which gives you sight in both darkness and magical darkness up to 120 feet. So this is kind of like the Devil Sight effect. You're also going to get Wisdom of the Spirit. You have advantage on Insight and Intimidation checks, which is really useful when you compare to like the dragon that we just talked about, right? They get to re-roll intimidation checks like a certain number of times. These guys are just getting advantage, which is better than a re-roll. So already a better negotiator, and you're maxing your wisdom presumably with this subclass. So your insight checks are really good, which is useful in a negotiation scenario. Finally, you get Word of the Spirit. When you speak, you can direct your words to a creature of your choice you can see within 60 feet of you, so only that creature can hear you. Alternatively, you can amplify your voice so that anyone within 600 feet can hear you. Its utility is pretty fringe. I think it's a fun ability to give a player character in D&D. There's so many times when you want to talk to someone like privately. So I think that the direct communication is more useful. But just having this on your character sheet, in addition to all these great effects, is nice. At 11th level, Body of the Astral Self essentially is going to upgrade the features you've already got. So Deflect Energy is going to allow you to reduce damage taken to yourself as a reaction, kind of like Deflect Missiles, but you don't get to actually redirect the projectile. But you do get to reduce the damage that you take from energy-based attacks. The number is equal to 1d10 plus your wisdom modifier, and if you don't have a 20 in your wisdom stat by now, I don't know what to do with you. So it's 1d10 plus 5, which on average is 10 damage, right? So reducing 10 damage as a reaction, it's okay. It's fine. Empowered Arms allow you to once per turn deal an extra martial arts die of damage to your opponent, which over time is quite good. Like it's great to be adding this on. A lot of people will take like Rune Knight for fighter to get that extra D6 of damage every turn, and this is higher than a D6 now at level 11. This is the D8, so that's good. Awakened Astral Self is going to upgrade us even further. We can now spend 5 key points to summon the whole plate of abilities and upgrade them with Awakened Astral Self. Now, we have a +2 armor class while these things are manifested, which is good. Good for tanking, right? Good for all sorts of stuff. And then Astral Barrage, we're going to get basically the fighter's like triple attack feature, right? We can make 3 attacks instead of 2 on our turn, which I love for monks. I feel like, all right, this is a tangent. We're talking about monks right now. I feel like monks should have also gotten this like multi-attack progression, right? I actually think that would have like really done some wonders for the monk. Anyway, so that's the Astral Self monk. One, I just want to note, I love the theming of this class, the synergy between like the idea of like manifesting different parts of your astral body on your person and then having it all come together at the end. It's really, really cool. It solves a lot of problems that the monk inherently has. I feel like rounding it out overall. So overall, I think there are some real improvements here to damage, to negotiation, but slightly less so to like utility and support and all of those other roles. The Drunken Master Monk. Speaking of, remember, these are drinking videos. That's the premise. That's what we're doing. We're drinking and we're rating the classes. So don't go saying I don't do this. Ooh, right, that's a new one. What do you think about it, Lou? Very stoic. Drunken Master is going to give us 2 things at 3rd level. Bonus proficiencies, which we're going to give us the performance skill and brewer supplies proficiency, and then drunken technique, which says whenever we use our flurry of blows, which we want to be using as much as possible, we gain the benefits of a disengage action, which is amazing. And our walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of the current turn, which is fine, is helpful. This is like the skirmisher, right? Whenever people talk about monk, they're talking about skirmishers who like get in, deal a little damage, like get out. Drunken Master Monk is one of the best people for that particular playstyle. Man, he's really just like, okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, just make sure your body's in the frame, but like your head isn't, so it's just people are like, what is that blob? Good, perfect, no notes. Tipsy Sway at 6th level. When you're prone, you can leap your feet with only 5 feet of movement rather than half your speed. Situational utility, I honestly don't think this is that great. Redirect attack. When a creature misses you with an attack roll, you can spend a key point and your reaction to cause that attack to hit one other creature of your choice. So, other than the attacker, and they have to be within 5 feet of you, I think this creates some amazing moments. Especially if you are up against a very large creature that does a very strong attack and they miss you, redirecting that strong attack onto another like minion or something could be very helpful. I think situations where you're standing next to a really big bad and also another minion is a situation that the Drunken Master Monk does not want to be in and has the tools to avoid. So, pretty situational as well. This hurts because at 6th level, these are some very important features, right? You want to be getting your key features at, oh, that's a pun. That's a pun. You want to be getting your main features at 3rd and 6th level, and then just kind of building on those for 11th and 17th level. Having such situational features at 6th level is going to hurt the subclass overall. Drunkard's Luck, you can spend 2 key points to cancel out disadvantage on ability check, attack roll, or save and throw. Basically a d20 test. I think 2 key points is too much. Even at like 12th level, you can do that, I guess, 6 times, but you want to be using your key for Flurry of Blows. Like, you want to be doing other stuff with this. So I think it's not... this also is pretty situational. Intoxicated Fury at 17th level is an amazing capstone feature. When you use Flurry of Blows, you can make up to 3 additional attacks as long as they're all against different people. I love that so much. I really wish this was not a 17th level feature. Like, if this was the 6th level feature, I think we would have a fantastic beatdown class here. Because it's such a fun way to, like, you have to spread the damage, which is non-optimal, but your damage output is so much higher, and your allies would notice. At 17th level, unfortunately, it's just not what we need. Oh, 4 Elements Monk. Oh, most disappointing of the monk classes. I actually don't think this is the worst class. We're going to talk about why. But certainly compared to like the expectation of the archetype, pretty bad. At 3rd level, we are going to get Disciple of the Elements, which is going to allow us to get a certain number of spells and then exchange key points for those spells. The restriction that it places on us is it essentially says that certain spells cost a certain amount of key points, and we have a maximum amount of key we can spend on any one spell that goes up as we level up, and there's a little table. This effectively restricts us to certain spell slot sizes because the key cost is directly proportional to the spell level. Among the laundry list of problems that the Disciple of Elements monk has is that you are only going to learn 1 discipline plus the kind of like basic cantrippy one, which is very little elemental magic to start with. Your number of disciplines will go up, but by a very small amount. And that's what a lot of our later levels are all about. So 6th level, you gain an additional elemental discipline. 11th level, you gain an additional elemental discipline. And 17th level, you gain an extra elemental discipline. So the whole class, the whole subclass, is expanding the number of options available to you from this list of elemental disciplines up to like 4, which isn't very high. When we look at these, a lot of these are basically spells, right? So you have Hold Person, Cone of Cold, Stone Skin, Thunderwave, Fireball, Shatter, Gaseous Form, Wall of Fire, Gust of Wind, Burning Hands. And then you've got some other weird stuff that like knocks people prone and does bludgeoning damage, with like Unbroken Air or Water Whip, of like spells. It's like a half caster. And honestly, I think if we did a little Arcane Trickster or Eldritch Knight Fighter, kind of like 3rd caster monk, I don't think it'd be bad. I think it could be okay, and use like the Druid spell list or something. And I don't even mind like a curated spell list for this particular build to be more like elements focused. My issue is that learning a single spell that you spend with your key points, the key points that you're using for blows, patient defense, and all that kind of stuff, is pretty awful. And then the cost of these things is so high. So it's going to be very difficult to use like more than 1 or 2 of these elemental disciplines in like your combat. So you're really getting a very small amount of benefits from this subclass. this is not a great subclass. Part of the reason why is a lot of these abilities are damage, right? Burning Hands is damage, Fireball is damage, Shatter is damage, Thunderwave is damage, Cone of Cloak is damage. The ones that aren't damage, like Stone Skin, Gust of Wind, Hold Person, are some utility spells, right? And utility is one of those categories where there are so many different types of utility that go into it that having one trick that you can pull out every once in a while is negligible. So being able to cast Hold Person might be helpful, but you're not the utility of the party or anything like that. Like, you're still going to need somebody else to help do battlefield control. So, gosh, there's really, I think if you took out all of these spells, I don't think this would be a substantially different monk. The problem is you're going to be casting spells with this, which means your key points are going to be gone. So anything that key was fueling, we have to assume is working off of a much more limited resource pool. So kind of hurts the monk overall to be a 4 elements monk. That's a bummer. The way of the Kensei monk is all about weapons and your monk weapon. You are going to get to choose 2 types of weapons to be your Kensei weapons, and one is melee and one is ranged. Each of these weapons can be a simpler martial weapon. You gain proficiency with these weapons, and weapons of the chosen type are monk weapons for you. So you don't have to designate one like, this is my monk weapon. All short swords or whatever are monk weapon. And then you get some benefits while you're using your Kensei weapon, which is what you want for this class. So you can make a parry, which is good. You can give yourself a +2 to AC until the start of your turn. So it's like shield, but like half as good. But it's unlimited, right? It's an unlimited resource pool, which is solid. Kensei Shot is specific to ranged weapons. You use a bonus action to deal an extra 1d4 damage. Huh. I guess that's per hit, so that's moving right along. Way of the Brush, you get calligrapher's supplies or painter's supplies. So that's... Sorry. Hard to keep a straight face when you're evaluating monk subclasses. Let's move on to level 6, One of the Blade. This is going to make your Kensei weapons count as magical, which is sort of paying the magical tax. Glad they're doing away with this. And then Deft Strike. When you hit a target with a Kensei weapon, you can spend a key point to cause the weapon to deal extra damage equal to your martial arts die. You can use this feature only once on each of your turns. So this is extra damage, which is good. It's once per turn, which is bad. It's just your martial arts die, which is bad. I guess it's not limited to... and it spends a key point, which is bad. So this is pretty bad. Sharpen the Blade. This allows you to spend a number of key points up to 3 to grant your Kensei weapon a bonus to attack and damage rolls when you hit with attack with it. The bonus lasts for a minute. This is actually pretty good, I think. I think this is well worth the investment of your key points in order to complete. I think that giving your weapon both plus to hit and plus to damage, especially you're at 11th level, like investing those 3 key points to do that at the start of combat is well worth your time. Coming online at 11th level is pretty rough for this ability. I think this is kind of this could be a signature ability of the class if it was a little bit earlier. Especially as like that choice to spend 1, 2, or 3 becomes more pronounced as the levels go on, right? Maybe that investiture of key points at 5th level, spending 3 is a lot. But maybe as you like rank up and you get like 8th, 9th, 10th level, you're like, okay, 3 is actually pretty good. Like I can invest that. But it's at 11th level, which is a shame. And then Unerring Accuracy allows you to re-roll an attack roll that misses. You can do this once per turn, which is good. This is sort of the Arcane Archer's ability, right, to redirect that arrow to another target, but even better, it has less restrictions. I'm going to say the Kensei is not a very good class. Part of my reasoning is it actually enforces, right, this needing to have a martial weapon, but not like one of the good ones, and a ranged weapon, and gives you benefits to each. So you're dividing your subclass features amongst those different like fighting abilities. I think that the bonuses and the focus on weapons. Remember, Flurry of Blows is still like a class feature, right? Like doing unarmed strikes as a bonus action in order to increase your damage is still a core part of this class. So it's just kind of a mess. And the bonuses to damage are, let's see, you improve your weapon to like a +3, which is good. Like a +3 weapon is quite good. Um, Maybe your DM was going to give you a magic item, in which case you don't necessarily need that, but it's good. It's good. You're doing an extra martial arts die of damage per turn, and I guess if you're doing ranged, you're doing an extra 1d4 damage per ranged hit. So there's definitely an attempt made here to boost the damage numbers. I'm not sold on it. And if you want to do anything other than damage, there's no support here. The Way of the Long Death. God, I love the flavor of this class so much. I wish it was good. Touch of Death, starting when you choose tradition at 3rd level. Your study of death allows you to extract the vitality from another creature as it nears its demise. When you reduce a creature within 5 feet of you to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your wisdom modifier plus your monk level. Obviously, scaling off monk level is really good. It is going to be a higher number every level, which is great. It's specifically when you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, so you're like the kill stealer of the group, I guess. And you do have to be within 5 feet, so you're trying to do this with melee attacks specifically, which is what the monk had already, so that's good. The problem is this is pretty situational. Obviously, if you're up against like a giant boss and you kill the boss, you don't need those temporary hit points. Like that wasn't helpful. So what this is really good for is like you're kind of fighting through a group of enemies. You kill one, you get the temporary hit points, they wail on you, and it cuts through them. You kill another one, you gain temporary hit points. Like you're very good at this, like working your way through a crowd of bad guys, but not so much against like the big boss monsters. Right? This doesn't really help in any way. The thing that is good about this is, unlike some other class features out there, it doesn't scale off of the enemy that you've killed. So if your boss monster has hench people around, like you are very good at dispatching the hench people, and that is gonna keep you topped up and be very useful. You're kind of turning your enemies' minions against them, which I like in theory. Hour of Reaping is the 6th level feature. It's going to allow you to frighten everyone around you. They succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the end of your next turn. It does say each creature, so you can't exclude allies. You're not choosing who gets to do this, which is a negative, and this is sort of your battlefield control. One thing that's worth mentioning is, generally speaking, as a monk, you're a melee character, so you don't want enemies to run from you. You want to be close to them. But the disadvantage on attack rolls against you is, of course, helpful, right, to stay alive. So this 11th level feature, Mastery of Death, is probably my favorite feature that they have. It's one of the best monk subclass features that's out there. When you are reduced to 0 hit points, you can spend 1 key point to be reduced to 1 hit point instead. Now, if you are at 1 hit point and someone else hits you, like you're going to be at 0 again. You know what I mean? Like this is not a very long-term survival strategy. But my experience with D&D characters is you don't want to get to 0 because you don't want to be out for the count. You don't want to be worrying about death saving throws and making your allies spend their action economy to get you up. This doesn't cost anything to do. And usually D&D characters are pretty hard to kill. Right? You've got an armor class, so there's a chance your opponent is missing, even if you're at 1 hit point. So I think this is quite useful. And you keep some key in the bank to use this on, and you are relatively difficult to kill, which is nice. And don't forget, you kill one person, you're at 11th level, you're going to get, probably 5 plus 11, 16 temporary hit points for killing someone. So that's going to pad out your 1 hit point pretty nicely. I think this makes this a very sustainable tank, kind of, right? You're up in the melee, you are gaining temporary hit points as you are working your way through enemies. You are able to fear them if you need to like have a little bit of a reprieve and like pause the combat. So if you are right up there amidst all the enemies, like making yourself hard to kill, I think this is a pretty good option. Touch of the Long Death is another one that allows you to choose a number of key points. I actually really like these features. In general, when players have choice, I like that they get to have choice. I do think in this particular case, if you're choosing to use Touch of the Long Death, you probably want to just like load up on the key points. Like you're going to be on the higher end generally. Basically, you touch them, they make a con save, and then they take 2d10 per key point, up to 10 key points, so up to 20d10 on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. So this is basically an ability to do like an absolute ton of necrotic damage by spending all your key points. I love it. This is great. It's obviously a 17th level feature, so it never comes up in ever, not even one time. But I like this subclass. I really do. I know it's not good, but gosh, it's so fun. All of these abilities are like a really good mirroring of like the theme to the mechanics. It's just off. You know what I mean? Like it's not there's not enough stuff here to really like get cooking. Mercy. Okay, Mercy is widely considered to be the best monk subclass, at least in terms of like being able to do more stuff. And let's see why. We're going to get proficiency in insight and medicine. We're going to get an herbalism kit. We're going to get hands of healing. You can spend one key point to touch a creature and restore a number of hit points equal to a roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. So just like a little, cure wounds, right? That you can have. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of limit here. It's not like proficiency bonus times per day, like some dragon-based subclasses we could mention. You are just able to like use your key points to do healing, which is really nice. Like that's very helpful for support. You can also replace one of your unarmed strikes when you use Flurry of Blows with a Hand of Healing, which is very good for the action economy. When you think about a Cure Wounds as like an action and like a spell slot, this is a key point and like part of a bonus action. That's really good. Now, you'd have to be next to your ally, but you can, as they say, like split move and attack. So you can attack your enemy and then, run over to your ally and do your Hand of Healing. You took Flurry of Blows, so you didn't disengage, so you'll take the opportunity to attack. But like, there are options to make this work. And I think most often what a support wants to do from a healing perspective is just like bounce their allies back up when they went down. And if they went down, they're next to the enemy. So if you are next to the enemy, you are next to your ally, you can bounce them back up and without like missing a beat. So I actually think this is an extremely effective support strategy. But we're not done with third level features, are we? We also have Hand of Harm, which is going to, when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend a key point to deal extra necrotic damage equal to a roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. This strongly incentivizes both a dexterity and wisdom on your monk. You're going to be multiple ability score dependent. But if you are consistently hitting for high, or like you have a high chance of hitting, and you have a very high wisdom score, that means you're going to be consistently able to get off like a Hand of Harm. This is something you can do on top of your normal unarmed strikes, which is great. So maybe this is a part of that Flurry of Blows or part of that attack action that you take on that turn. This means that you're going to be able to consistently burn through more ki per turn. And this is a very ki hungry subclass. I imagine you're probably using at least Flurry of Blows and Hand of Harm on each turn, and then if an ally does need healing, then you're throwing in Hand of Healing. So that's 3 key point like per turn. At level 3, that means you're done very quickly, right? So as you continue to go up in level, this class is going to be able to be more free to do its thing more often. At 6th level, you get Physician's Touch. This allows you to add an additional benefit to your Hand of Healing and Hand of Harm. Hand of Healing, you can like do a little lesser restoration as part of it. You can cure blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned when you heal someone. So it does the healing and it does the condition removal, which is great. When you think about like Cure Wounds is like a 1st level spell, and then Lesser Restoration is like a 2nd level spell. So you're spending 1 key point to get like 3 spell slots worth of power as like one of your unarmed strikes. It's very good action economy to do this if they need it. And then Hand of Harm, you can do the poisoned condition, which is good. Like poison condition, like gives them disadvantage on a bunch of stuff. Like I think it's a very useful thing to throw in. At 11th level, we really take this class up to 11. Sorry. Now, Hand of Healing no longer requires a key point to do. So wow, that 3 spell levels worth of stuff is now just one of your things. You don't need to spend a key point on it. That really frees you up to like do more cool stuff. And the same is true for Hand of Harm. You can only do it once per turn, but you just get that necrotic damage each turn on your unarmed strikes, as long as you take the Flurry of Blows action, which is already one of the better martial arts options. You're here at 11th level, you have some key points now. Like you do have a resource to spend, and we've slashed the costs. So this is going to feel amazing when you get to this level. Like all of a sudden, what you've been doing, you no longer need to do that mental accounting. You are just going at this point. And I think 11th level is like right about just in time to make it on the board for support and damage for the monk. 17th level, Hand of Ultimate Mercy is basically like a revive or an even higher like resurrection spell, which is really, really good. Need to have died within 24 hours, and it also cures them of conditions once per long rest. That's good. That's very good. That's nifty. That's exactly what you want on like a subclass capstone. You know, some big flashy cool thing. Let's talk about Open Hand. I think the Open Hand is like the most pure distillation of the monk. I kind of wish all of this was tucked into the monk base class. When you hit a creature with one of the attacks granted by Flurry of Blows, so that's specifically Flurry of Blows of the bonus action to do 2 unarmed strikes, you can do a thing with that. So you can either make your opponent succeed on a dexterity saving throw or be knocked prone. Prone is great. Strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet away from you. 15 feet is very far. That's great battlefield control. And then you can also prevent it from taking reactions until the end of your next turn, allowing your allies to run away from it without needing to use the disengage action. So this is very good battlefield utility. Like this is quite strong. Because you are almost every turn able to use that Flurry of Blows on your bonus action and then do one of these things for no additional cost to that, as long as you land the hit. When we get to 6th level, we get Wholeness of Body. As an action, you can regain hit points equal to 3 times your monk level. 3 times your monk level is pretty good. It's a high number of hit points, but it's, you know, an action in the middle of combat. Like that's not what we want to do. You must finish a long rest before using this feature again, so it's like once per long rest. So that's not that great. I honestly would prefer if this cost like 2 key points and then there was just no restriction, right? Because then maybe you have a monk that can like sustain itself in combat and be like consistently topping up or something like that. I guess that would lead to like out of combat shenanigans. You know, I hate this whole like out of combat in combat balance is like I think the root of the problem. You know what I mean? Like D&D, whenever they release an ability for combat, they also have to balance it against like just standing around, and like this is a problem. Maybe I'll make a video about this. Beginning at 11th level, you get Tranquility. Tranquility says you can enter a special meditation, surrounds you with an aura of peace. At the end of a long rest, you gain the effects of the Sanctuary spell until the start of your next long rest. Saving throw equals 8 plus your wisdom plus proficiency, so like your key saving throw essentially. I think this is good. Now the Sanctuary spell says like if you attack or like do certain things, it breaks the Sanctuary effect. But essentially, you impose disadvantage on enemies attacking you, provided you're not taking any hostile action. Which is super, super monk-like, and I love that. And I think it's like a neat ability. When we are rating these according to the roles in the party, what is an open hand monk? Well, you've got some battlefield utility, but only with attacks. The Sanctuary thing doesn't help. Are you a tank? If so, how are you going to draw the enemy's attention if they have disadvantage to attack you? and you're not doing any damage, are you a damage dealer? Because that you're going to break Sanctuary. So I don't actually know when this would be useful, truth be told. Like, it's very flavorful and cool, but I actually can't come up with, like, a scenario where Tranquility is a useful feature. Let me know in the comments. Just the definition of a beautiful capstone. Quivering palm. We love it. Audience applauds. So basically, you spend 3 key points to start vibrations in someone's body when you hit them. It's kind of like on a stunning strike, so you like add it onto the strike. You spend 3 key points. Creature makes a Constitution saving throw when you like trigger the vibrations, and if they fail, they are just reduced to 0. Whatever they were at, now that number is 0. And then if they succeed, they take 10d10 necrotic damage, which is quite a lot of necrotic damage. This is so cool. It's just so cool, you guys. Like, 3 key points and reduce any creature to 0. What a badass. What an incredible... Now everyone's like, hey, I'm glad we brought the monk on this quest. I get why they nerfed this for 1D&D, but like... if you're playing to 17th level, you should get to do stuff like that. You should be allowed to just mess around and ruin everyone's plans. Alright, Wave the Shadow Monk. You can use your key at 3rd level to cast spells. What spells, I hear you asking? Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, or Silence. And then you get the Minor Illusion cantrip as well. So yay! A spell casting system that is much less complicated than the 4 Elements Monk, and it takes up 1 sentence on the description. Crazy. Crazy stuff. Right away, you get some great battlefield utility. Silencing, like, enemy spellcasters, being able to lay down darkness in, like, a patch of soldiers. It's all very, very cool stuff. Obviously, you can give yourself Dark Vision with Dark Vision. Now, Dark Vision does not work in Magical Darkness as caused by the Darkness spell, and there is no exception here to be able to see in your own darkness. So... I honestly feel like maybe this was like rules as intended for them to be able to see in their own darkness with Dark Vision, but that's just not the case here. Basically, what the Way of the Shadow Monk is doing is it is messing with enemies using these spells, and then you're going to just fall back on your like normal skirmisher ability. I want to note, Pass Without Trace is the best infiltration spell out there. It helps your entire party make incredible stealth checks in order to infiltrate a place. I'm going to say this pumps up in infiltration. You can lay darkness down and walk through it. You can operate at night with your dark vision, which is really good. You can use Pass Without Trace to get your whole group in. You can put silence down so that you don't make any noise. Minor Illusion to distract guards. Like, this is an amazing infiltrator, and it's only going to get better. At 6th level, you get Shadow Step. Incredible ability. When you are in dim light or darkness, you can use a bonus action to teleport 60 feet to another unoccupied space, as long as that is within dim light or darkness. So you are the shadow teleporting guy. This is such a fun ability. The mobility here is great. The infiltration is incredible. You have some of the best infiltration in the game with this setup. Because remember, you can cast darkness. You can cast darkness and then teleport, and it's very cool. Now, if you're in your own darkness, you can't see in it, so you can't target a space for the 60-foot teleport. So that's a bummer. But if you pretend like this made sense, it's amazing. Cloak of Shadows. By the 11th level, you've learned how to become one with the shadows. When you are in dim light of darkness, you can use your action to become invisible. Now, this is like a thing that like rangers get, but this Shadow Monks get it too. You remain invisible until you make an attack, cast a spell, or in an area of bright light. It doesn't say if you move. So, you are just invisibly walking around with like maybe Pass Without Trace on. Maybe you put a silence down. Like, perfect infiltrator. Perfect. S tier. Top of S tier infiltration. Shadow Monk. Shadow Monk. Sign up for a Shadow Monk today. It's great at infiltration. That is what this wants to do. And then finally, 17th level, Opportunist. Whenever a creature within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack made by a creature other than you, so when you're standing next to some combat, you can make an opportunity attack against that creature. So you can just kind of pile on to its bad day, which is nice. Good stuff. Oh, Sun Soul, did you think we had forgotten about you? You terrible, terrible Dragon Ball Z ripoff. The Sun Soul is going to get Radiant Sun Bolt, which is an ability that allows you to do a new attack with your attack action. This special attack is a ranged spell attack with a range of 30 feet. 30 feet is not very big. You are proficient and you add your dexterity modifier to the attack and damage roll, so it's like shooting an arrow. Its damage is radiant, and its damage die is a d4, but it's just your martial arts die, right? Like it's linked to your martial arts stuff. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can use this special attack as part of it. So you can spend 1 key point to make the special attack twice as a bonus action. So this is going to replace your flurry of blows, essentially. So this is making your monk ranged, and not only ranged, but doing radiant damage and ranged. So let's talk about what that implicates. The first thing that implicates is you're going to overcome a lot more damage resistances than the monk up until level 6 would have gotten because of the radiant damage. So that's good. The other thing you're going to get is flexibility in who you're attacking. So maybe there's a spellcaster, you can attack the spellcaster, and they go down, you don't have to move, you can just turn around and fire a bolt in a different direction and hit some other, archer or something, right? And that's the advantage that ranged characters always get, is they get to be more tactical in where they put their damage. The bad part is there's no reason to do this if you're a frontliner. So you're taking your monk out of the melee, you're not as good of a frontliner as you would have been. And just frankly, your martial arts die isn't that high. Like, if you were only ever doing unarmed damage, it's doing the same amount of damage, right? It's the same plus to hit. It's the same amount of damage. It's radiant. That's it. That's the only change. It's radiant and ranged. So you're not really getting any bonus in the damage dealing department from your subclass features here. Searing Arc Strike at 6th level says, immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 2 key points to cast Burning Hands as a bonus action. You can spend additional key points to cast Burning Hands as a higher level spell. Each level spell above increases the key cost by 1. There is a maximum as well that you can spend, so you're limited in how many key you can spend at once. So, casting a spell as a bonus action is good. Good for the action economy, right? Burning Hands does this fire damage to an area, so it's good against multiple targets. That's valuable. Let's not discount that. It costs 2 key points. So you are consuming key points more rapidly. The question is, how many times do you want to be casting Burning Hands? And is that every turn of a combat? Is that every combat? And the answer, I think, is usually no. But it's useful. We'll give some points for damage dealing, right? Because you can, if there are multiple enemies, you're dealing a lot more damage than a monk ordinarily would have. Searing Sunburst at 11th level. This says, you gain the ability to create an orb of light that erupts into devastating explosion. As an action, you magically create an orb and hurl it at a point you choose within 150 feet, which is a great range. It erupts in a sphere of radiant light. Each creature makes a Constitution saving throw or takes 2d6 radiant damage. You can increase the sphere's damage by spending key points. Each point you spend, to a maximum of 3, increases the damage by 2d6. This is free, key free, if you just do the 2d6 to everybody, but realistically, if you're doing this, you want to maximize your impact. You're spending 3 key points to deal now 8d6 radiant damage to everyone who fails a Constitution saving throw. Nothing on a success. On a success, they don't take any damage. So that's Fireball, right? That's just a slightly more damage Fireball for about the key points. They usually convert roughly 1 key per spell level. So Fireball's a 3rd level spell. This costs 3 key points. It's about right. It's radiant instead of fire. The range is 150 feet, which is good. So you get Fireball at 11th level. I wish it wasn't 11th level. I wish it did half damage on a save. Alright, you get some points for having Fireball, I guess. Jeez. But yeah, so there's that. So Burning Hands and Fire. Lastly, at 17th level, you get Sun Shield. You become wreathed in luminous magical aura, you shed bright light, you can extinguish or restore the light as a bonus action, which is interesting. If a creature hits you with a melee attack while this light shines, you can use your reaction to deal radiant damage to the creature. Equals 5 plus your wisdom modifier. So it's probably 10, right? You're a high level. You've maxed your wisdom. Come on, you're a monk. So 10 damage. 10 damage to an attacker is good, but it uses your reaction, which you might have been using on an opportunity attack. I think probably this is good because it doesn't cost ki, right? You can just activate it, and then if people attack you, then they take damage. Remember, you're the ranged, laser shooting monk. So you're not near the bad guys. You probably aren't triggering this that often. But you're not, you don't have to. It doesn't cost anything to just turn this on, to just bonus action. All right, we're now breathed in flames. We're gonna deal damage. I don't think this costs anything, but I do want to list it as like a pretty bad capstone. It's just a little bit weak. I legitimately think if it was deal damage equal to your monk level to someone who attacks you, now we're talking. Like that's kind of cool. But I think 10 versus like 17, 10 is just not impressive at 17th level. It just isn't. Those are the monks, and this is the problem that I think a lot of YouTubers have analyzed. Treant Monk, in particular, is just the key economy of the monk is so stressed. There's so much you want to do with ki with some of these subclasses, and you only are going to get your monk level per combat. And remember, most people play D&D at low levels, so you're talking 5 ki points, 6 ki points, 7. And over the course of a combat, that's like 1 or 2 per round, and that's it. That's your budget. So it's disappointing to get all these subclass features that are coming in, and they cost ki, and they increase the ki cost, and they allow you to choose how much ki you spend, and you're just boom, 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 running up against this wall of I'm out. I'm dry. I've run clear. But those are the monks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back at you with another video next week. I've been putting a lot of research effort into that video, and then we will come back and rank more subclasses. We're going to get through all the ones for 5th edition by the time this series is done. Thanks, guys. 11th level. Bum ba dum bum 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 bum.